we're over it. Time to do something. What's next?
Where are you going?
Let's
The
build
known
this team.
path or your
Launch
own
this
path?
place. Find this fix. And electrify this entire community. This is Cincinnati. And guess what?
Next loop's here.
Where are you going? The known path or your own path? Iona College is where you'll be given the means to dream and find meaning in your dreams. To serve while you learn and learn while you serve. To fight the good fight and to own your path. So, where are you going? Iona College. Learn outside the lines.
Hello, everybody. I hope that you are having a beautiful, an amazing, a great day, night, whenever you are deciding to watch this broadcast. We've been here all day, roughly, and, well, we've got to see some interesting matches. The first one ending off very dominantly in a fashion, but the last one we just had very close off. Couldn't have said that it was one-sided in any sense, but now the match you've been waiting for, Iona College versus the University of Cincinnati. I'm your play-by-play caster, username _ Intel, and the brains of the operation will be Worst Cast.
Yes, the brain. I have a lot of... No, I'm not the brains. Actually, user Intel is going to be the brains here because he believes that the day starts at 6:30 p.m. So, obviously, very brainy, that one. No, in all seriousness, we are both good contributors in the brain factory here at EGFC. And for right now, we're going to be going into Iona versus University of Cincinnati, and it's going to be interesting how these teams stack up. They're both very similar in the standings right now. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how they match up against each other, because obviously with standings, schedules have been different. Strength of schedule is going to be different. So how true and accurate are those standings to each other? It could be that they're perfectly accurate and both these teams are very similar in skill level, or it could be a situation where maybe someone got unlucky and played against some contenders players early on in the bracket and in the league, and they got a little bit unlucky there. But we'll be seeing that in just a short moment as we will be heading into Lijiang Tower, which has been the hot spot for tonight. Obviously, with EGFC, the maps are pre-selected for the week, and the teams all play on the same maps just to make it consistent and make people prep for those maps as the week goes on.
Honestly, I think that's one of my favorite things, you know, when it comes down to the EG. And that's solely because nobody has to worry about what map type to pick. You know what you're going to go on, so, you know, you can basically scrim that map specifically and get the practice in that you're looking for. However, it still always looks like that some teams were a bit caught with their pants down going up against their opponents. We'll have to see what type of differences, changes, or ideas that they go out. While the 6-man is completely popular worst, every team likes to run something different. And I am very curious, especially with what they're running now.
We should be going to game right now. We're going to be starting here on Gardens, the lovely lily pads leaping across the screen. They're not leaping, they're actually stationary, but I was going for an alliteration right there and failed quite miserably. But we are going to be watching these teams not fail their rollouts potentially, as the Fair Mercy is on the side of Iona, but going to be with a Rhine Diva and a Baptiste. Not something you normally see. Again, this is kind of what I call splitting your style, as the TP going out on the point for University. They're all in on this rush, kind of just holding this point style, whereas Iona is on two different fronts. They want to play slow with their Fair, but the rest of the team wants to go fast and aggressive into them.
Eventually they break the TP, but in that time they lose Oblivion. Now they're just looking to finish off this backline that have left themselves very visible. But when you've left your backline available, they just decide to push forward. Though the Fire is the only person on the point, the entirety of Cincinnati are together pushing forward, and they are going to start taking control of that point. However, they still have to worry because that Farah is building close to that barrage.
Yep, fair, close to that barrage, but how much can it really do? Who's gonna pressure out this diva to want them to use their matrix on something else? Maybe a fire strike you can maybe time it with, but that's just gonna be a very high level thing that I don't know if it's quite as easy to locate, but I mean, the early pick on the Baptiste is massive.
They notice where Calamity is going, and that's the big point. They have to track where this Pharah is, as that's the big point in shutting down this fight. However, we do see they do take their time. They're waiting to get back as a unit. The Shatter goes through, being able to find out the Mercy, and Calamity falls down to OZY. It's unfortunate, but it's what happens. The slowness that comes with their comp is going to punish, especially with that poor Valkyrie coming in a little bit too late.
Yeah, Ozzy right now can just feast on the fact that the enemy team is playing way slower than half the composition should be, so they can just farm up on that Rhine shield. The biggest thing about Symmetra is in a rush mirror, you have to get on top of the Symmetra and start pressuring them fast, because otherwise they're going to just mark down your shields with that beam and just become an unkillable monster. So it's really going to be how fast can they get onto this sim, especially with the barrage now available, but they're getting marked out. This Ferris barrage is going to be hard to get off.
I feel so bad that wall, it stops them for a little bit longer, but gone as quick as it came. The Shatter goes through, walking into the shield. It's not really going to be working too well, and the barrage gets punished, but you're able to find the charge onto Lake. Sound Barrier able to keep them up for a little longer, but with the even trades, it's going to be more on the Reinhardt to make the big play. Building up to another Shatter, combining with the bomb to find the true value. That's what I'm talking about as we see Iona. They're being able to bring it back, and they are going to gain control over the point.
Finally gain control over the point. I think this is where potentially their fortunes can turn around. It doesn't matter as much for Calamity to play slow, because they naturally are going to play slow on that defense. And right now, the TP, though, going to go on the point. Can the Pharah get value before the rest of the team gets run over? That's going to be the question.
I don't really think they can. Just notice as two fall down almost immediately. Though Samex able to find the pick onto the Cassidy, it's not really working well when you're stuck inside your opponents and they are bursting you down. You do pop out the barrage, but losing your life before you truly get a pick is what's going to hurt. Now it's just a cleanup phase, and well, your Mercy isn't going to be able to help for too long. Luckily, though, Lake is alone. They get the charge punished before they manage to connect. And with the Shatter, a little bit unnecessary, but I respect the grind.
Yeah, they finally get it through, and again, that slow play really does help them out in the long run. They're able to kind of eke out value naturally over the fight, but it was actually a really good job from the University of Cincinnati right there to get in onto the BAP very quickly. Krev has to be aware of where that Sim TP is going, because they need to stay alive, or else Oblivions is going to have a really rough time. But so far, so good, and that could continue, but one fight going awry is all that University of Cincinnati needs.
The Valk is used solely for anticipation, and it seems like they really just don't want to engage on it. They sit their time, they wait, and they're being patient. But with this wall, it's looking like it's going to pay off. They play on the opposite side of the window, pop the Shatter, and they miss it. But the Sound Barrier allowing them to move further. They lose out Leapfrog due to the boop, and now they have to play in a very chaotic fight. But it's still looking in their favor as Calamity is split off from the Mercy and is being bursted down. Now, University of Cincinnati have a lot to work on, but they need to clean this up quickly. Being at 93%, and with 4 opponents still alive, they use the High Noon with the return of their Reinhardt. Looking to just burst this damage down, they manage to pop it, and they melt the University of Cincinnati. What looked to be a victory looks more like a hold, as they just have to try to touch that point, but that's the hardest part.
Yes, and right there, no time to touch. The really good idea there to pressure them down with that High Noon. Oblivions walks in, realizes he doesn't want to kind of waste resources on shield with the High Noon up, shatters them down, cleans up the fight, and Iona, not Ionia, that is another property. That is another intellectual property we will not get into. Iona, manages to find the cleanup on the point. Really well played, returning it from 99 to 0 to that 100 victory. And the fortune should actually be pretty good on this point. Junkrat, mirrored compositions for both teams.
it is going to look to be more on the set of who gets there first, who's going to get more value, but that's said and done. Now we're going to be looking to wonder who this is going to lay out. They walk in, and the fight begins. Junkrats and Symmetras looking to place their turrets, though that charge doesn't get as much value. It seems that Shrek is going to get punished, unfortunately enough, with Oblivion split from the team. They are not going to be able to get too much, though. OZY manages to fall down. Same with Leapfrog. Eventually, Oblivion does perish with their life, and with Lake still up, that's all you need to secure that fight.
Yeah, it was a really close one. Oblivion's lasted for a very long time, but in the end, Ozzy getting that first pick on the Junkrat really did come through. That's really kind of the gamble you run if you're just a tad bit slower, even a tad bit too fast. Sometimes a conk mine into the back is all that needs to get a pick, and right now it's going to be hard to retake into White Room. I think I really want them to go main, but with Lamp now forced out, they definitely have a position to walk main and just take this.
No, they build up the ultimates, though that Shatter gets blocked, and they use the sound barrier. They manage to find out Oblivion. They have to walk through the massive sim shield, and well, Lake wasn't prepared against it falling down. Now we see Iona building up. They use their own wall just to build some security, but their Baptiste is focused out after the window gets placed, especially with Calamity's own Riptire. It's not looking good. They're basically playing on the back foot to stall this point out for as long as possible. Though they get the Shatter when the window gets invested. They may actually be able to bring this back solely because there are 2 supports left, but the recapture is still there. Unfortunately, Samex isn't really going to be getting too much out of contesting this point. Still choosing to, however. I can understand it, but you are now at a big disadvantage, especially with your Reinhardt returning. It's more looking like a stagger fight than anything. As that bomb gets placed, Samex falls down. They look to try to break the shield, and they do manage to do it, but the counter bomb coming in solely to be able to recontest. They manage to boop out as Zuck is now inside them with the Riptire bursting in, finishing off 2. The fight that I called a useless one. Well, not exactly. I proved wrong as we see Iona bring it back.
Really good job by Samex there and Strachey to be on that point and kind of stall it out in a safe manner. Samex gives their life for the touch, does the bomb out, forces the Symmetra off to the side. They get caught out. Strachey stays alive the entire time, despite their tanks being farther back. Sits on the pole, sits on the pillar in the middle, just keeps riding around it and does a very good job. She really just popped off there, but can they keep it up? Ozzy has the Riptire.
Ozzy definitely does, and that Riptide can be a big point to play as they use the teleporter solely to get back onto the point, and they're in a very safe spot, but they're in a very pokey spot, no longer having that shield. That's going to be the big problem. And the Junkrat, Ozzy, has been caught out, needing to retreat. A lot of this time is now going more in favor of Iona, especially with Oblivion. More looking around for what to do. They pop the sound barrier with the ball, but they're not able to get too much. Calamity does get traded, and they don't have a true enemy to focus. With the Shatter onto Lake, they pop out their wall and build some sustainability. It just looks like Iona aren't going to be able to get too much as they eventually get melted down, and they lose the advantage they had. Now Cincinnati, they're going to be able to bring this back. However, it's at one fight territory.
Yeah, and I mean, there was a lot of particles on my screen there. We played a little round of Overwatch. So many ults expended from both sides, but you have the Riptire here for Calamity. Last time, 2-man, very strong, very good stuff. We're going to see if they can do the same. There is a little bit of time for other ultimates, but nothing really on the horizon, and you're kind of waiting, trying to not let Ozzy get a defensive Riptire off.
They throw the bomb out, though. They really just want to find a pick, and it's Kreb. Though Ozzy gets traded, that's not what's looking good. It's the fact that Oblivion falls. That's the bright side of everything. Reptire only going into the Diva, so it eventually collapses on top of itself. But look at this. Cincinnati, they look clean. Calamity's able to finish off Lightning, where that Reinhardt is split off. Yet, they don't have the advantage that they once held themselves. Cincinnati do want to back up. They do want to take a second so they can recontest as a unit. But look at this Iona. They don't care. They have the Shatter, and they are looking to hard aggress back into this fight. Lake is doing a very great job when it comes to playing this defensive. But with this bomb going in, the Shatter landing onto the Junkrat, poor Ozzy manages to just barely survive. But Lake gets hit with the mech. That's a poor sight to see as we see the University of Cincinnati crumble under their feet. They're not even able to get an ultimate out. There is no touch possible here.
Yes, that was a really well played recontest there. They don't force it too hard too early. They actually wait a good bit of time. They actually wait a good bit of time, come in with the shatter with the bomb at the same exact time, and that just
Mhm.
results in them having too much of an advantage in terms of HP pools going in. Resources are down for the side of University of Cincinnati, and Iona can bring it back. I mean, a good back and forth on both rounds there. Definitely could have gone either way. Could have been a 2-0 for Cincinnati,
Mhm.
could have been a 2-0 for Iona, could have been a 2-1 for either side. We don't quite know just yet, but that's looking good heading into the rest of the series, where Hollywood, we've seen a lot today. Will these two teams play different stuff, or will we see more of that double shield ball stuff that we saw earlier?
With as much of the differences we've seen, I mean, you did admit that both of these teams are a little bit higher up when it comes down to the ranking, so I wouldn't be surprised to see, the wrecking ball competition, as it is, ran by more high-level teams. Yet, they do seem very comfortable on that brawl, and they seem very comfortable in just walking into each other. I wouldn't be surprised if they just decide to go brainless and continue smashing each other like a kid with two toys.
Yeah, I mean, for both these teams, I think I saw stuff that was pretty consistent with. They're both 3-6 teams, and while other 3-6 teams look different, look either like better or worse depending on schedule, like I said before, these two teams look very, very similar. Like they look like they're both at the same standings, at the same rankings, fighting for it, playing similar compositions as well. They have very similar mindsets to the game. I'm gonna be excited to see maybe more mirror matches coming in on and further maps points, potentially go farther than map 3. We'll see what ends up happening for Iona, but first we have Hollywood very shortly, and I could definitely see not wanting to run Rush here. Like I said before in the previous series, Rush not great on first point, bad on second point, decent on third point. If a composition isn't at least good or better, great on at least one of those points, you're typically not going to run it. So definitely leans more towards dive, bub, monkey, very popular, or double shield.
I mean, you say that, but some of these players just really like going up against expectations or whatever works out in the end, and I think that's the funniest part when it comes down to these teams. However, I do think you're absolutely right, and I feel that is what is going to be run. Iona don't have a reason not to. They're going to be on the defensive side first, meaning that they have a lot more to look forward to going up against Cincinnati.
Yes, and from what I can tell, University of Cincinnati has 4 Overwatch teams actually, which is pretty cool. But
It is.
this is the B team that competes in EGFC. But it's really cool to see a college, and especially like that can have a lot of just support for esports, and particularly Overwatch esports in this specific case because this is an Overwatch podcast, but esports in general, any game. It's really cool that they can produce like 4 teams of Overwatch. Like, right, that's 6 people. That's a lot of people. That's more than your typical esport for each team. So 6 players times 4, 24 players. Like that's a lot of people you have to get interested and committed to collegiate esports. So I'm really happy to see that for them. And for right now, they were fighting there. I could definitely see them bringing the series. This can go either way, no matter what you might think of a 2-0 on the first round. Like that does not tell the story of these two teams.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of time committed when it comes down to competing in Overwatch, and more than anything, just esports in general. Very excited to see how they work, and look at that! A whole new composition that we have not seen tonight. Bunker is what they call it, correct?
Double shield, bunker. Oh, this is not double shield. This is just Arista Diva. I don't know. There wasn't really like ever a term for this
Call it
composition. Some people call it bunker. Some people just call it Arista Diva with a fair mercy. So some people like to just say, "Hey, let's just call the duos and just say all the duos." Hey, it's it's a fair mercy with Arista Diva with man. People got lazy with names a while ago. I'm gonna be honest. Nothing like Ronky comp, Ryan Monkey. I love Ronky.
I love Monkey too. But one more what I love is quick dives and focus fire. Making that bunker play so far back gives them enough room to decide how they want to engage in, but they wait for that shield to be melted, and then they pop out. Though Lake, dangerously low, is the one who doesn't go down first. Synergy is going to pop and get res just to be able to reunionize and get back into a 6v6. Lake following closely after is not going to be looking too good as the fight takes place with inside the tiny hug. Calamity really isn't worrying too much as they just look to do as much burst damage and distract that echo in the air. it is not going to be looking good for the side of Cincinnati, even if that Pharah goes down, and that's just because they don't have the units to continue fighting, and yet they continue to poke, they continue to push forward. The monkey re-engages, they say winnable, and they look for that baby diva who just barely falls in the ad, but with the res, it's back into that scenario. With the window, they do look to take out this monkey who split off the Cassidy. It's an even fight, nonetheless, as both of these teams continue to push forward and try to take control. That anti-lance onto the Orisa, not inside the immortality, has to jump back in. They get the Valk, which is going to be bringing that healing back up for a little longer. However, there is a primaling monkey going after your Cassidy, which is not looking too good. At least you get the trade and lose out. Yeah, it's a lot going out here as we just see them continuing to push. Another anti-landing onto that Orisa, but that bomb. Beautiful saying, just letting you know that fight is over for the University of Cincinnati.
I'm gonna be honest, I don't know if I agree quite with your team is all 1 HP and your Mercy that's Valking decides to pull out the Glock and try to kill the other Mercy, but they won it out. I mean, odd decision, but still, that was chaos back and forth. The resources, that was a 2-minute fight right there, and that was just like so much good use of Iona on their defensive resources being used at the correct time and the correct spots. So really good stuff to them. But this next fight, again, they're going to have Nano Blade. Do they have anything to answer? Not really. It's going to have to come down to, do they stun this out?
Yeah, but they used the Nano Blade. That's a beautiful stun. Stopping Kuro to get too much value, still able to find out the Baptiste, which may be more than enough, especially with the copy. The barrage going out, Calamity getting punished, not going to be able to live for too much as Synergy gets hit with 2 different Diva DMs to shut it down. They continue to hold this point as that bomb stops anybody from touching onto the point, but Archimedes using the bomb, managing to catch out that baby Diva. It's looking more in favor of Cincinnati as that poor baby's not going to be getting too much, and yet the Cassidy returning in with the Baptiste. They get the Reds and the Monkey returns, but the Pharah is there to help with this burst damage. But that's just stories and hopes. There is no dreams. Even if they force this down to less than a minute, it's more of a clean fight. But yet Calamity manages to fight against the odds, getting those 2 picks and hoping, well, no, praying that their team comes back, getting Archimedes as well. That was just dirty. The stall is there, and the monkey is not going to be able to bring back as many as the opponents they lost. They use the nano onto that diva, hoping just to be able to make that difference, a bit more survivability with the dive coming back in. The Mercy regains that Valk, comes back in. Cincinnati finding the trades, getting that Pharah. Now there should be no hypothetical chance of the comeback, even if that Mercy is keeping them up. This is more falling down to just not having the resources and teammates alive. Shrek may be there, but with that bomb, they force it down to 10 seconds, and now they'll finally be able to capture.
That seems pretty worth it to me. I mean, you just had to cast 2-minute fights in a row. That's pretty great, but I mean, that was just a really good job by Calamity to stall things out. It just, if strategy just lived a little bit longer, obviously was getting forced really hard and kept Calamity in the fight for longer, that could have been a completely different story. If Calamity lives for another frag, I mean, that could just be the point over, and they didn't even get a tick the entire time because Oblivion did a great job holding that point. But now, no ults available here for Cincinnati, just that Genji Blade almost, but you don't really want to use that unless you have that nano. We're going to be interested to see if they do commit anything at all.
I mean, look at that. They hit a direct onto the Echo. They're not able to clean it up, but it was still more than enough damage to switch sites. Now Calamity, they are going to be losing their Baptiste, but still having the barrage, having so many ultimates looks good on their side. They even get the res out, hoping, well, that Baptiste coming in is going to benefit them, but still stuck in this 5v6. It's the mods that are going to be making the difference, stopping anybody from walking in, finding out Archimedes, and putting Salty in a bad position. Now, we're just going to have to see what Cincinnati do coming into the next fight, because they don't really have the units to push in anymore.
Yeah, and it's kind of this interesting thing where they're running the BAP with the ball. Not much healing's gonna come on Oblivion, so it's really on him to play very self-sustainable, getting health packs, not taking too much damage to put strain on the fact that Krev might have to try and throw some orbs their way. But how do you counter out this Nano Blade? Well, you're gonna have to peel with the ball. Perhaps you just try to slam it up when they go in, or even just go fast with this bomb could be the answer. But Oblivion slept in the backline, should be dying.
Oblivion is dangerously low, and just not gonna be able to escape while Synergy has the high noon. Gets a beautiful 180 stun onto the Genji, but it's not enough because look at that, the 2K's there and they continue pushing forward without too much care in the world.
Yep, not too much there. Oblivion's actually going to be swapping over to the Monkey. I wonder if Krev swaps Ana. Looks like they want to keep that Ant Matrix. I don't know if that's quite the play. If you get stuck on this Baptiste and you're like, I have to... Okay, never mind. You know, Krev's listening. Krev knows what's up. But right now, you really have to try and go fast with this Pharah, which is not something you normally want to do, especially with this Echo Mercy, typically a little bit stronger than Pharah Mercy in the duels themselves. It's generally the backline pressure Pharah gives.
Yeah, they find Calamity out extremely early, but then Archimedes gets punished, going a little bit too down. There's not much they can do. They have to peek in the Mercy, the Diva! They get caught out, the Bubble manages to save Synergy, and one big push slowed down and turned into a fail. As we see Cincinnati, they are not going to be capping the second point, and it seems like Iona, they're looking to push this all the way.
Yes, they get stopped on that second point. And that's definitely very doable for Iona. Definitely the goals are in sight. And I'm gonna be honest, Archimedes, wasn't that person in the last series on a tank? Am I going crazy?
I think
The
we
same
just have
name.
two players that are named Archimedes.
Man, stop naming yourself after Greek people. It's just
Oh, well, I think it's also based off of the bird from TF2.
There's a bird in TF2 called Archimedes.
Yeah, the medic's bird.
I just don't play. I'm just not a TF2 player, bruv. That's just not how it is.
Well, we're Overwatch casters, so it's definitely understandable. And I mean, you've got a moment to take a look at the differences and what everybody's been running. So with the fact that it's going into a mirror, does that change the expectations is my question.
Well, one team has a Genji, but no, in all seriousness, the Genji on defense can try and find a lot of value, but generally Genji's going to play a poke kind of mid-range style game, whereas the Iona comp can actually just go hard in with the Tracer. Once the Tracer gets set up, you can kind of just try to dive on the backside. The Genji doesn't do much to peel, doesn't do much to burst down tanks, although the right click can deceptively do a lot of damage into the head of a Winston. But the Genji kind of just gets stranded in that mid-range. It doesn't have much to do, can try to dive the backline, but diving the backline as Genji into an Ana is a skill matchup, and if Krev wins it out, that can kind of leave their team out to dry.
Do they listen to your points? I wonder. The Pharah is still there, and it seems that they've already scouted out the high ground. Poor Soul's not gonna be the Mercy. No! Lightning's gonna fall down first. That's a massive pick, and now the Ana following very closely after. Calamity getting away with absolute murder, and poor Leg not getting that sustainability anymore. That is a very quick and decisive first fight.
Yes, and first fight now over. Unless some over-aggression does occur from Iona, they should be capping this off. The DPS are under pressure from that Pharah. Contest coming through. Diva insta-killed, though. Not going to be much more for them.
Yeah, they're all coming in from one small tunnel, but look, the Pharah just gets so much value off of it and lives. Now you're asking yourself, what did you truly gain from it? Because ult charge was not it.
Yeah, didn't gain much there. I mean, you have nothing in the tank, right? Your first thing you're going to be coming up on Nano, onto the Monkey, Nano, onto the Pharah. You have some options here if you're Iona. Pushing up, not letting them hold any space. Really good stuff here, particularly from Calamity and the rest of their team now following up to hold this for the high ground. Just put someone on cart, leave them there, let them babysit that for a while, particularly the Ana. And you can just keep going forward, not let them hold any space, because now they're going to be on the back foot for the entire time. And Calamity deciding to ult them. And staggered.
Oh my goodness! Able to end that before they could truly set up. Iona are doing an amazing job when it comes to just this aggression and pushing forward. Now, the Torbjorn.
Torbjorn is interesting. They want to deal with this Tracer in particular, but also it provides a little bit of threat onto the Pharah. They can't just take angles, they can't just take open angles willy-nilly because they have now 2 hit scan threats on top of them, but, I mean, this bomb into the backside is going to be massive.
They don't notice Archimedes not able to survive. However, it does seem Iona. They managed to push it with nobody contesting, and that's how you get a second capture, though not one truly satisfying, if you ask me. It's not something you truly notice. Every C9
I just
happens.
didn't. I just kind of forgot that. Hey, that was like the end of the game because Iona did a really good job of keeping the tempo up. They know their goalpost and the second point a little bit less than that. So what we're gonna do, the space that they want to be holding, we're gonna take that as soon as we have the advantage of tempo in a fight. Their spawns are staggered. We're gonna go take that advantage. Calamity's like, I don't care if the card's not even close to here. I'm ulting you to keep you guys in spawn because then you're gonna have to push back out into us instead of us having to push into you. That way we're gonna win the map, and perfect. It just worked out so well for them.
If there's anything I love in this game, it's that absolute aggression, being able to predict your opponents and then use the ultimates properly to make sure that they don't even touch that cart. That's exactly what I'm looking for in Overwatch. But we still have another map to go through. The possibility of a comeback for the side of University of Cincinnati is there. But Iona, they look angry and they look like they want to try to end this as fast as possible. You'll need to stay tuned because we'll be right back after this quick break. Welcome back, everybody. I hope that pause wasn't too, break wasn't too quick, because I know that map was. It was an absolute whiplash to C9, none of us seeing it come in, and now we're looking at Volskaya Industries as a possible last map, 2-0 right now. We're looking at a lot here.
Yeah, looking at a lot indeed. We're going to be heading over to Volskaya, currently up 2-0 if you're Iona. Very dominant. Hollywood, after a very close Lijiang, actually, so that was interesting. We're seeing them kind of thrive in these more coordinated pushes that are happening by point and not just by the ticking timer of doom that is control. They looked very strong on the Farah. You can't run that on Volskaya, not as strong. Typically you want to go for a double hit scan or a Hanzo Ash or Tracer Ash or something of that kind of vein. We could definitely see that come out here for Iona. Seems like they have the chops to run it, but we'll be interested to see what University of Cincinnati decides to go for. They can play Rush. It's a little hard, requires a little bit more just coordination, but it can be done. Or they can try and go for a dive comp or a double shield comp. We'll end up seeing what they want to run, but there's a lot of options available. I think Iona, though, has every opportunity to match them.
You're absolutely right, and Volskaya is all about rotations, teamwork, so not one person is going to be able to hard carry this or really make those great plays. However, I've been proven wrong several times before, and Calamity, I think, is willing to make it happen another time. Look at this. It's the double shield versus the double bubble.
Yes, and right now, double bubble on defense, not something you typically see. Typically see it on attack. But what's gonna happen is your Winston wants to cycle around truck. Typically, your Zarya shouldn't be there. Your Zarya should be looking to go high ground actually. But you're gonna cycle your Winston around truck and just let the spam and just raw cleave damage win you out the round. And right now he's gonna jump forward. That's kind of an issue.
That's a big issue. I mean, Oblivion gets punished. Same with Sam. Now they're at a big disadvantage since, well, in Cincinnati, they're going to be able to push as forward as they want. Though the Pharah is doing a great job on stopping them from truly committing in. They're there, and they are on the point. So now it comes to the problem of, can you melt them down very quickly? And the question goes to, well, not you. As we see Leapfrog being the last support alive, Calamity looking to get that damage in. Oblivion is returning in. They don't seem to want to sacrifice a tick, and they manage to find Calamity, but Archimedes gets traded immediately. They get the res in. That Ashe not in a spot. And it just seems that Iona, they don't consider anything losable as they manage to bring this fight back.
Yeah, nothing is losable when your Pharah is completely untouched in a fight. They're going double hit scan, they're going double shield, they're going to try and rotate through. But that's where this comp feasts on them. When you're going to be rotating slowly through certain key positions. Oblivions, if he doesn't jump in next time, can just stand there, zap him as they're walking through, build their ult charge. If he gets nano, it's a kill threat. And then you just kind of poke them down from range. It was really well done previously by them. I'm hoping to see a little bit more discipline out of Oblivion.
They do get themselves set up, however, they are in barrage territory, and yet Calamity doesn't even care, just uses the normal rockets to melt them down. And my goodness, just let the man get the 6K.
Yeah, give the man the 6K. Calamity is going absolutely insane, and I don't know if there's really going to be any opportunity to make waves here. How do you get through? Maybe they're swapping right now. If they swap more characters right now, they're going to lose ultimates. That might be just it. They might just have ruined their ult economy. They're going to be keeping their support line, but who can really help their tanks get in? This might have been a mistake.
I mean, that is definitely something to be looking at. They do have 2 ultimates, and they're very good, but Calamity is still set up over top of them, looking to just try and hit them with the barrage when they're least expecting it. Yet Archimedes is doing an amazing job of scouting, making sure they know they pop out that window, setting up for this visor. Mercy now caught out. They do manage to find the dart, but look at the barrage! Managing to clean them out even without the damage boost. They have to touch the point, but at such a big disadvantage, the University of Cincinnati, they are caught and they need to just swim. They need to find some type of movement as they are not being able to get done with what they're doing.
I mean, it is rough, and they haven't even been forced to primal, I believe, a single time. They're just now getting their Zarya ult 3 minutes and 15 seconds in. The fact they haven't even needed their Zarya to do that much damage, to do that, have a grab available, is crazy. They've just been so... It's just been so solo focused on the fact that this Pharah is so hardcore countering them right now. Nothing else has mattered.
However, they do now hard commit onto this dive. Oblivion's in their backline, solely just stopping them from touching this point. What are you going to do against that Graviton Surge when it flunks? Honestly, you're not going to be doing anything. Lake still falls down very quickly. They do get the 2 picks onto the support and to the DPS. And it seems that Iona are finally not going to be able to bring this back. Calamity, though, has been showing us wrong, but with the majority of Cincinnati there, can you really do it? You sacrifice the first tick, you're looking for that damage, but it's not really going to be there. You have to play at a distance. Second tick now, sacrifice Calamity going in, hoping to make a difference, loses their life.
There it is. Finally, they've managed to stop the Calamity. They've averted the apocalypse. It's happened. They got rid of the Pharah. Now they can start moving on the second point. Will it be better for them? Yes. Pharah, a lot harder to pilot in these situations. They now have the ults coming up online. They have the ult bank advantage for the first time in this entire map. But now, where will those nano go? Will it go on the monkey to try and build up that primal? Or will it go into the Pharah to just do more Calamity things and especially help with that barrage that could potentially go off?
Maybe a little bit of both. Who knows? It's obviously not gonna be the Tracer who gets slept in the backline. They do nano their monkeys solely to let themselves go forward with the high noon, being able to find out Krev. Now with the pressure being onto Sam X, the Borsal isn't going to be able to live for too long until Calamity comes in, manages to pump in that damage and save the fight before it truly can get too bad. I mean, you didn't need that barrage, but hey, I respect it.
Under the bomb? Okay, cool. I've seen some situations where people walk into bombs by accident thinking it's a little bit more safe than it actually is. But right now, I think the biggest issue is Leapfrag. Could possibly be a Moira here, run some 6-man. I don't even like that. Pharah comp just hard counters this comp in so many ways. You're swapping Archimedes off to a Cassidy, but I fear, this is what my fear, the Cassidy won't be able to really push the Pharah out of any position and will just end up be the one that's get murdered every single fight. They're going to swap on the rush. They're going to try to make some rotations on the high ground, but I don't know if it's enough. I think Iona has the number. We said that about first point. They managed to cap in the end, but I don't know if they finish it with time. Definitely not more than a minute.
I mean, either way, the Monkey is once again in their backline. And, well, Calamity is coming to finish anybody who is dangerously low. The Immortality now being prepared in as well. They just force the setup and they force the side of Cincinnati to back up. A lot of time is being slowed, but they still want to re-engage, going on to this just pure brawl with the Bob up. I wonder how this is going to turn.
Yes, and we're going to be having the Ashe just free firing in the back line. Oh, Calamity stops that high noon. The only potential problem that could have presented that Fair Mercy, now gone. Time to reset. 45 seconds. What can they do? I don't know. It seems like they're running themselves into a wall over and over again, going for the Reaper, trying to run over the front line. You can't even do that properly because you're just getting constantly just damage from the Pharah and the Ashe. Oh, man.
I mean, now they have to go in. Sound Barrier as the only ultimate, and then the window, when you haven't been able to kind of keep up, that's going to be the big problem, I definitely feel, because now you have to go into a big problem. So many ultimates on their side. That's 5. They pop the grab, and it's there. The Sound Barrier able to keep them up for a little longer, but not... Wait, no, yes, against the barrage. Calamity falls. They have the ultimates, the Reaper in the backline, but they don't get set for that shatter. It does seem Iona, they don't manage to capture the second point, especially with the Bob out. That's going to be stopping the Diva from doing too much. That's going to be stopping their chance as Cincinnati. They only have a draw or a hold, and Iona, they've been adapting extremely well.
Yep. They've been adapting extremely well the entire time. They have a game plan. They stick to it. This is the kind of team where they have an identity, right? They want to play around Calamity on their DPS, and I really just like seeing this, that they have this identity that they play towards, and they had some maps here today that actually work towards that identity pretty well. How would they do in other settings where the maps are different, maybe don't work towards that fair as much? I don't quite know. We see a little bit more for that Li Zhang kind of, where we see that where it's very close, but they still manage to eke it out in the end. But I really like that this team just has this identity, is working towards it, and plays it very well, and Calamity is such a good far, especially when it's so hard for Cincinnati to pressure them with the kind of style and compositions they're running.
Ready for battle.
You're absolutely right. And Calamity's been doing a lot of work as these games continue to move further. I definitely feel a lot more pressure needs to be shutting down that Pharah, because Calamity gets value just by being Calamity and existing, while definitely on the side of Cincinnati, they don't have that burst damage to win like that.
Now this is where the Pharah gets a little bit worse, because you're having to go over the top as the Pharah to try and get damage down. Double hit scan will just look at you, go, oh, goodbye, deleted. And the double bubble kind of falls flat because it's harder to cycle when your monkey has to use the jump to get in. Previously, the monkey would use the jump to get out after the resources are expended, because they just play truck and they just kind of beam you in, and then they jump out when they're in danger. Now you have to jump into the danger and then use the resources and then fall down and then try to get the resources back up. That's a little bit just more dangerous, and but that boop is amazing. They just don't have to worry. They just don't have to worry anymore.
Yeah, exactly. We do see the immediate rotation onto the high ground, but in counterplay, their Baptiste is alone and not able to use that immortality, though Lightning is able to get that res out. You've left your tanks alone for a little bit too long. Lake is going down dangerously low, though they're able to sustain for a little bit longer. Playing inside this small room, Archimedes has to sacrifice their life solely to find the Tracer. However, Calamity is still there. Calamity is still strong, and Calamity's ready to be a threat. as that burst damage helps to build up to that barrage with the first fight.
I mean, when that boop comes out and you lose your positioning with your Orisa and your soldier, they're now forced to try and go around and do something. I mean, that Orisa is just not going to get there fast enough. Maybe with the legs, the soldier can, but there's a really, Calamity is like the centerpiece of this team. You can tell in how they play, and so far, they have been doing their job amazingly. How can this barrage really find value on the flank? They have to try and avoid the marking from the Ashe and the D.Va. Strategy's dead, by the way, to that dynamite.
I mean, yeah, so that's really good on the side of Cincinnati, as they're going to be forcing this time bank down. With it only being a tick, we've seen teams hold it for 5 minutes, and I could definitely see Cincinnati, they look prepared.
Yep, they look prepared indeed, and particularly, I want to see them try and just play for the marking of the Pharah that might flank. Now that they're in open air, it's a little bit harder, but this Nano Monkey coming in is going to disrupt that. They have to look at them to try and remove that threat. They can't look at Pharah. Calamity's free.
I definitely agree, but look at that, going into the backline, they miss out just barely. But Leapfrog is going to die with the grab, going on top of the high ground. Calamity's able to get away with so much. Lightning almost melted down the barrage there, but getting punished out by Archimedes. That's what you're looking for. Pulse bomb landing in. They still manage to finish off Lake, as the only people alive is going to be a DPS and a support. Baby D.Va not going to have that mech to be able to sustain, and there's only 2 people left to touch as that Bob gets thrown, making it 3. That Mercy having no room to live, and that Bob being slept. The poor High Noon only manages to find out Shrek. It awakens the Bob, but it's still not enough. That Monkey returning in and out as Calamity comes back in. Shatter missing out, being able to find out synergy for a little bit longer.
Cool.
But Calamity still coming in. Cincinnati, they have the spawn advantage, and they bring it back before it gets too dangerous, as the rest of Iona decide this isn't worth it.
It feels really bad when you start trading out people late in a fight on TCP. You realize that, man, it's getting losable and losable by the second. We have to finish this off. The Bob on the point was very clutch. But now next fight, they only have the bomb. Do they try to just throw it at the Pharah Mercy, try to remove them from the situation? Calamity has been very good with their movement, has been very good with their positioning so far. Should be safe, but you have to take that gamble. Do you nano Oblivions in if you are Iona? Do you try to get them on the backline? You know they have nothing, but it's a Moira. It's not very killable. There's a lot of decisions to be made here, and that's going to decide probably the fate of the next 2 to 3 minutes, because that's going to start the ult cycle, that's going to start the ult banks, and that's going to be really the decider of this game.
Yeah, but the fight's taking place so close quarters. I mean, Calamity's benefiting off of it, finding out Lightning when they were putting pressure onto Sam X. Now it's Krev gone. That is going to help, but you've lost 2. They get the res. No, Shrek gets punished before the res is enabled. It's all up to Oblivion, who's looking to be a G when it comes to finishing this fight out. The D.Va no longer with a mech. That bubble lasting for a little bit longer, as you see Joey being able to get the remech in and come back. Nano being on to that Tracer, and the barrage going into the back line. That poor Baby D.Va not going to be having too much to sustain. Now, all that's left is the Monkey and Lucio caught with inside the grab, having no ultimates to save themselves. It's all over until that Tracer manages to touch for a little bit longer.
That's it.
Unfortunately, Iona, they came in with such dominant energy. They were angry. They got King Kong on their team. That's Oblivion, because it's a monkey. Either way, we do see a 3-0.
Yeah, and I really do think that this team, when they have the maps that enable Calamity to play Pharah, are a real threat. They looked very organized, they looked very disciplined, and they look like they know what their game plans are going into fights. I think Cincinnati, on a day where maybe they aren't playing on these Pharah maps, they can start fighting back a lot more than we saw them on those last 2 maps. Like we saw on Lijiang Control Center, for example. They can really start fighting back, but Calamity's Pharah, they just don't have an answer for, either in their game plan or in the mechanical ability required to remove such a dominant threat from the sky.
Absolutely agree, and you know, that's just a weakness. Cincinnati, they will overcome one day, as every team suffers against the Pharah but then learns what to do against it. Regardless, that was a very intense match as Iona kept up that aggression. They were looking to be ready to just do whatever they needed to do. However, we do have an interview, so make sure you stay tuned in, as we'll be able to talk with one of Iona College's players. We'll be right back.
Yo.
Hello, everybody. Either way, hope you're enjoying everything. You've got two people. Don't worry, Worst will be back. I love him too, but I guess we just got to give a lot of love, especially after the C9, because we are here with one of Iona's players, Sam X, after a very impressive, kind of, I want to say steamroll, but victory nonetheless. And, I'll start it out with the questions. How did you guys feel going into this match?
Going into the match, I would say we were very warmed up. We were very ready. I can't deny there are always a bit of nerves when it comes to these matches. But once we established the first map, we started getting our like tempo. It started that we just like we were ready after that.
Hmm.
Yeah. And so for you guys, kind of going in, you guys were, I believe, the same place in the standings, 3-6 as the other team. Oh, by the way, at home, I'm the disembodied voice of Worst. This is me. So, but yeah. So when you guys were doing it 3-6 going into this, was this kind of and obviously the split just started, right, for you guys? So the split just started. You're trying to get on the good foot. Second weekend, how does it feel, kind of beating out your supposed like equal competition and moving forward higher in the seating?
It feels really good. I really want to see how we match up against our future competitors. I would say that last split we had to face a lot of tough matches. So now we get to really show our colors a bit more.
Hey, I'm back. What's up? But yeah, so for you guys, a lot of that play really came down. I was watching Calamity. We were talking about Calamity the entire time because a lot of the play seems to be focused around Calamity and that Pharah. Uh, Obviously, you guys have planned around that. How big of a part of your whole squad is Calamity?
Calamity, I would say he's kind of the center point for now. That Pharah is very, very destructive, and we noticed that, and we're trying to take advantage of that as much as we can. Pretty much pocketing it, standard stuff. But Calamity has really proven himself over these matches that we've had him with.
And for you guys, I'm seeing a lot of in the rest of the split. I'm seeing a lot of rematches you're having, even against teams you lost to, like St. Peter's. Now it's a new split, a new you guys, a new team, a new attitude. Kind of that kind of happens with the new semesters and all that. How do you guys feel up going into those repeat matches against other teams that you've lost to before?
I can't deny, again, being nervous about these matches, but I know us as a team, we're always growing, we're always getting better. So I'm really excited to see these rematches. Because admittedly, at the beginning of the last split, it was a little off, so to speak. But once again, as I said before, once we got our tempo, these matches feel really nice to play. So I really want to see how well we do against these rematches.
I definitely respect that idea. So you get the moment. You've talked a lot, but you get a little bit more. You get the floor. Anybody want to shout out, give love to, especially after that match?
Yeah, so some shout outs. We have Brandon. We also have Worst Strachey says hi.
Strategy.
And I just want to shout out also the rest of my team and the two ominous people behind me.
Two guardians of death, and a little less ominous that one, but still, nevertheless, a guardian right there. But yeah, big congratulations to you guys winning in second win in a row now, going to the new split. I believe you just took down Ryder. Looking forward to more up and up for you guys. You guys make your way up in that league. But again, big congratulations.
Ready. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. Now, Worst, that leads me and you left alone. I gotta say, the series of games that have happened today were absolutely amazing, and I'm definitely going to be going back in, noticing some things that I definitely didn't see. But any last words you want to give out, Worst?
Fun matches. Always love to get some collegiate Overwatch action in here. We saw a lot of teams fighting hard, and some close ones, some close maps, potentially a close series if that Route 66 goes another way in that second series we saw today. But a lot of good stuff, and just love being on here, casting some collegiate with you, casting anything with you, community Overwatch, any kind of Overwatch with you, user. So it's always a pleasure.
I definitely agree. But so, if you enjoyed me or worst personalities at all, I highly recommend you follow us on our Twitters. We'll make sure to stay up to date, let you know when the next cast is, or if we're gonna be here, as well as check out the official Twitter when it comes down to the EGFC, because they will always keep you up to date with matches, events, anything's happening, and honestly, it's amazing at every point. So, I want to thank you so much for tuning in. We'll catch you next time.